Today is going to be a little bit of a different video when it comes to the entire Digital Nomad series that I've been working on quite recently. So for those of you who are new to this YouTube channel, my name is Nate. This is the Life with Nate YouTube channel. I talk about a wide range of topics on this YouTube channel, from embassy events here in Washington, D.C., all the way to digital nomading around the world. And more importantly, I hope you get an education out of these different videos that I do, because the entire intent is to inspire you to take action with your own life when it comes to potentially becoming a digital nomad. So in a previous video, I've spoken about 7 remote entry-level jobs that you can do in order to let you potentially work from anywhere in the world, depending on the company that you're with. And in future videos, I want to cover different types of jobs in different sectors to give you a better understanding of the entire digital nomading ecosystem and how that could potentially apply to you. However, I was recently doing some thinking, and I was thinking, before I kind of dive into like the murky waters of like job specifics, requirements, education, etc., it would be better to give you an overview of some of the most common career paths for digital nomads to give you a better understanding of what sectors are out there and how people are even finding these jobs to begin with. So without further ado, here are some of the most common career paths that I've found personally, or through research, through different podcasts, books, blog posts, etc., for digital nomads. I apologize for the cluttered slide, but this kind of gives you a good indication of what career paths that are out there. And please note that these subjects that you see like on the slide with the arrows pointing outwards from the digital nomad label are umbrella terms. So they could encompass a lot of different things in one label. It's just to give you a better understanding of what's out there. So we'll start off with marketing, because that's the easiest to explain. So in terms of marketing, typically it refers to digital marketing when it comes to social media management, working on behalf of an agency potentially, or a client. Writing obviously can encompass a lot of different things, from being a copywriter, which is the first thing that comes to mind, but there's also translation work, being a transcriber, which means that you listen to audio files and then you write notes on reports that you have. So writing encompasses like a lot within like the sphere, but some of the most common digital nomad jobs that I've seen out there, and you got to be careful because like a lot of them are scams at the same time. So do your homework and vet the process. But being a copywriter is something that I've seen like across the world, which is honestly amazing, because I never thought that being a copywriter could be so popular, but it has been. So the third subject is project management. And so for those of you who don't know what a project management or manager is, typically it refers to an individual that has, let's say, a certification in managing projects for a government or a client or a person, and they typically manage the project from start to finish. And so the entire role of a project manager is to ensure that deliverables are met on time, you don't go over budget, you manage any conflicts between like the team that you're working with, et cetera, et cetera. There's a common joke about project managers being useless, but let's be honest, without project managers, nothing would get done unless there's someone kind of shepherding the whole crowd, if that makes sense. So the fourth is customer support. So what I'm seeing now is a lot of, and this is not new, like a lot of companies in the past have outsourced customer support jobs for the past couple of decades, because it's cheaper to hire someone that works in India than someone that works like here in the United States. So a lot of customer support roles can involve, for example, like a lot of call centers. That's the first example that comes to mind. Or a new thing nowadays is you'll have people that are like taking the place of like chatbots for like live customer support when you're on like a website and you're having trouble. So an agent, for lack of a better word. Customer support could honestly mean anything, from like product review all the way to assisting people with their orders online. It's incredibly fascinating. Design. So again, design can refer to a lot of different subject areas. But for example, UX design is a common digital nomading job that I've seen in the past. We can also talk about creative design with being a graphic designer, a creative designer. Keep in mind that for like the programming slash design jobs that are more creative, like being a UX designer, typically those types of jobs require more experience than, let's say, like a beginning graphic design or video design person that's kind of like out there. Human resources. So the sixth subject on this slide is human resources. And for those of you who don't know what that is, human resources, HR for short, is the management of human beings when it comes to like a company or an entity, an organization, etc. So HR officials typically manage, let's say, ethics violations, or they make sure that when someone comes to someone with a question and they're talking about office politics, is that allowed? Like that type of thing. Basically, the management of human resources to ensure a company does their job effectively with proper distribution of budget, time, and all the other attributes that are out there. And then finally, the final category is programming. So programming can again refer to a large range of things. But the first thing that comes to mind is, let's say you're a C++ programmer, right? Like in the world of programming, theoretically you can work from anywhere in the world, just like all these other different sectors. But there are a lot of programming jobs that are out there that typically, like, allow you greater flexibility when it comes to working remotely compared to, let's say, maybe writing or project management. Like, it's important to note that even though all of these sectors are some of the most common career paths that digital nomads can do, some of them are more flexible in terms of allowing you to work remotely. Like, for example, from what I've seen, a lot of human resources, project management type jobs are requiring you to do a hybrid type schedule where you spend like 2 to 3 days in the office, versus a programmer or, let's say, a UX designer has a greater flexibility to work from home, more than so like going into the office, because they can make a better argument. Like, if you're a human resources and a project management type of person, the company that employs you could be like, wait, come into the office because your job is to interact with human beings and to make sure that everything is done on time, versus a programmer or a UX designer has to do their work from wherever they want to, because they're given a task and they just have to get it done. So just keep that in mind as well. But yeah, these are some of the most common career paths that digital nomads have in the world out there today: marketing, writing, project management, customer support, design, human resources, and programming. I hope this inspires you, because this shows me that it is possible to get a digital nomadic job. Like, it's very hard to do so. And obviously, you have a better advantage if you have like a skill set, a portfolio, and some experience already accumulated. But the fact that there are so many jobs out there in these different buckets means that there's something out there for everyone. So I thought this would be really fun to include in our little video today about digital nomads. And so I was listening to a podcast one time about, like, it was a digital nomad experience in like Bali or some other, esoteric location. And one of the questions that popped up in the podcast was, what are some of the most commonly Googled questions about digital nomads? And I was like, that would be very fascinating to just kind of do a quick Google search just to see like what questions pop up in which attributes. Because if you think about it, and I've looked at, I should have included it like in this video, but like there is a clear increase in interest when it comes to digital nomading across different years. And so obviously, like post pandemic, people are more interested in becoming a digital nomad, because if anything, the pandemic taught the entire world that people can do their work remotely from home. But unfortunately, companies are slipping back into this old mindset where it's just like, oh, well, like the pandemic is officially over, or at least like, they say that it is. So it's like, it's time to come back to the office, like full RTO, return to office. And people are just like, wait, why would I do that when I was working, full remote during the pandemic? And then we cycled out of it a little bit. And then everyone's like kind of going back into the office. And then you see in the news all the time about companies doing like a full RTO or threatening to fire you. So these are some of the most commonly Googled questions about digital nomads. So full disclaimer, I'm not going to answer all of these questions in this like video, because that would make it way too long. But I kind of just wanted to give you a better understanding of like what attributes or categories people are searching for when it comes to the entire digital nomading lifestyle. So obviously, the first one that everyone wants to know is, how much do digital nomads make when it comes to income? How to become a digital nomad? I think this is a very interesting question, because Google and the amount of information out there is very educational, right? Like, you could search up anything, like how to fix your hardwood floor to how to construct a space satellite. That's a little bit of an extreme example, but there's so much information on how to become a digital nomad. But a lot of the information that's out there isn't necessarily the most helpful. And so like that's why I'm kind of doing these videos, to try to contribute to the greater understanding collectively of the whole digital nomad ecosystem, by kind of talking about the different career paths, which websites to look at, what categories to watch out for when you're applying for remote jobs, to kind of sweeten the pot, as it were. So ideas, what to do as a digital nomad. So this goes back to the different career paths that we literally just talked about in the previous like slides, from marketing all the way to human resources. So that person should watch this video. Qualifications, so what qualifies as a digital nomad? So the definition of digital nomad, just for fun, can vary, right? So for example, there are digital nomads, from what I've seen, who travel to a different place almost every single week. And that's what they call fast living, right? But then there's other people on the other side of the digital nomad spectrum who are slow living, where they, let's say they want to live in Mexico City for 6 months and they do that instead. It's incredibly fascinating to see how people choose to live this different lifestyle when it comes to working from their laptop, like anywhere in the world. And then we finally end with lifestyle, meaning what is a digital nomad lifestyle? So if you've watched any of my other videos about finding purpose in your job versus in your life, I feel like this question relates to me like probably the most, I would say, out of like everything, in addition to income, obviously. But it's important to remember that when becoming a digital nomad is your dream, and you actually fulfill that dream, you need to also find a community of like minded people that share that dream. Because the downside of becoming a digital nomad, or at least one of them, it's one that doesn't get mentioned enough, is that it's an incredibly lonely journey. Like if you search up digital nomading pros and cons, right, you'll see a bunch of YouTube videos talking about like quit your job, travel the world, live free, and all this stuff. But you still got to pay taxes no matter where you live, right? And then if you're alone for the entire time that you're solo traveling in different countries and you're fast living or slow living, it can be incredibly lonely. Because think about it, like people are in a constant transient state of motion. They don't have anyone around them that kind of shares the ideals that they want to like have. So that's why co-working communities like Selena, for example, are so important. Because let's say you want to go to Bali, right, for 6 months just to try it out, and then you go to Bali alone and you don't have anyone around with you. Making friends when you're overseas is incredibly difficult. So if you have a community of like-minded people that you're like living with, that you're interacting with, et cetera, it can be a different experience, and you'll get more lifestyle meaning out of the whole digital nomading thing that we all enjoy. So these are the first 5 questions. So overall, we have income, how to become one, ideas, qualifications, and lifestyle meaning. Let's explore the other 5. So here are the 5 other most commonly Googled questions just when you search up digital nomad. So when you talk about income, ideas, and money, so a lot of YouTube videos, if you just search up digital nomad, will tell you to quit your job, move to Bali, live off your savings, and start your side hustle with e-commerce or dropshipping. it's a I laugh because it's the most commonly like Google trope, like when it comes to digital nomads. But we'll talk about this in like a future video as well, because it's like really funny. But the thing is that the easiest way to make money as a digital nomad is to find a company that will pay you to do a job that will let you work from anywhere in the world. And this is something that I've had to, quite recently realize, and like also kind of gripe with, because entrepreneurship in this social media age is incredibly glorified. Like, I don't know, the amount of times you see like these podcasts talking about like, I made like, I was trapped in the 9 to 5 rat race and I was making 5 grand a month with my old job. And then I started my own business and then I went up to $1 million a month or something like that. It makes me laugh because these people are either trying to sell you a course or something, you know what I mean, and that's how they make their money, by talking about it in such a way. So I can cover that in like a future video, because it's incredibly interesting to see the different ways that you can make money as a digital nomad versus starting your own business and moving to Bali on a whim, which is also good too if you want to. So the cost of living is also something that comes up like a lot, right? So one of the reasons why people become digital nomads is because they want to live in a place that's not as expensive as their host country. So I'm in the US. a lot of US digital nomads were going to Bali en masse literally a couple years ago because it was so cheap. Like, I remember seeing these interviews with DNs, digital nomads, that were talking about, like, I lived in a mansion for like a straight year and I was renting it out for $100 a month. And it was like, it's an over exaggeration, but the downside of digital nomading is that these foreigners that come to, let's say, like Bali or other, like Portugal, Lisbon, like I think, yeah, Portugal, Lisbon is a hub, Bali, Indonesia is a hub, et cetera, is that these foreigners that come in and that choose to stay there for like an extended period of time raise the cost of living for the locals, which cannot afford the, let's say, for example, the US prices of like renting out like a mansion or a house, and they get priced out of land and buildings that they had lived in for literally generations. So that's a downside of digital nomad in general, is that you'll have people that bring like strong currencies, like let's say like the US dollar or the euro or the British pound, right? And then they'll move to Bali for like, let's say, a year, and then people come over time more and more from like the US, Britain, all the developed nations, and then they raise the cost of living not just for themselves but for the locals that live there. So it's something to think about too when it comes to sustainable digital nomading. So the last two are difficulty. How hard is it to become a digital nomad? And the answer to that question is that it is difficult. Like, if you're someone that's starting out and you have like, 1 to 2 years of experience, maybe even no experience at all, unfortunately, like the digital nomading like realm slash ecosystem is incredibly competitive, depending on which field that you go into. If you're a beginner programmer and you want to be a UX design person, digital nomad, right, working from Bali, good luck if you have like no experience, because you're going up against people that have like 5, 10, 15 years of experience. So it's not to say that you shouldn't try, but at the same time, there's something to be said with like working a regular job, like let's say, in the US or wherever you are, developing a portfolio, showing future employers that you can do what you say you can do, and then going from there. And then skills to be a digital nomad. Well, that's probably the most complicated question out of all, because as we've hinted in this video and in previous videos that I've talked about, you can have a lot of skills that would allow you to become a digital nomad in the future, from marketing all the way to programming. So I hope this gives you a better understanding of what some of the most common career paths are and sectors to work in for a digital nomad. And then also, what are some common subject areas that people are just curious about when it comes to digital nomading. So look out for future career videos as we dive into different sectors: marketing, writing, human resources, programming, etc., with LinkedIn examples, just to kind of give you a better idea of requirements, education, all the good stuff. And I hope this inspires you to potentially start your own DN journey one day, or just get curious and start Googling, like, how to become a digital nomad. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please look forward to more in the future. Like, share, and subscribe for more content. See you next time.